Most lifters think they need months of rehab to train pain-free. But what you might not realize is you could be one simple variation away from pain-free training. And look, I know that sounds kind of too simple. Like if you've been dealing with shoulder pain that's been, irritating you for 8 months, or knee pain that's been irritating you for 5 months, I don't know, it almost sounds kind of like insulting. But the thing is that you don't have to stop lifting. You don't have to do some beginner program. You don't have to do easier exercises. You don't have to reduce your intensity. And you don't have to spend months doing band exercises on the floor, being bored out of your mind. In this video, I'm gonna teach you why most generic rehab that you see in the clinics don't necessarily work out best for lifters, and what we could do about this to get you back in the gym and training pain-free without giving up the gym while you rehab. So a couple years back, I was doing a bench press. I was using weight that I should not have been doing. My form was really bad. Everything about the situation was terrible. And I was getting ready for my bench press. I was getting ready to lift. I unracked it, went for my lift, did not feel good. Immediately, I felt something wrong in my leg. I had back pain going on for many, many years, but at this particular moment was when everything kind of spiraled out of control. Numbness, irritation in my leg. Immediately got up. My girlfriend was in another room. We were training. I remember going to her and being like, I was just freaking out. I'm like, this is not good. Something really bad just happened. And it was absolutely terrifying. That pain that I had, ended up lasting for a very, very long time, almost 3 years, if not 3 years or maybe a little bit longer. And during that time, before I found the right people, I ran into some people. I was desperate, right? So, physio, osteo, massage, all that stuff, right? It's kind of like this never-ending kind of loop. You go to one practitioner, they tell you one thing, go to another one, they tell you something else. For example, like go to massage, you're tight. Osteo, it's your joint. Physio, it's like you need more stabilization, all that stuff, right? So it just becomes confusing and it becomes quite stressful. So, I was bouncing around until I found the right people, like I said. Prior to this bench press incident, I had back pain for like 10 years. And I saw the physio, the chiro, and so you could add that part. We tried a bunch of stuff, and at one point it's just like, well, now it's about like symptom management. Like, I don't know what's wrong with you. And imagine being told that, like, you're going to have to deal with this for the rest of your life. Just totally unacceptable. In my honest opinion, great guy, like I said, just I don't feel like that's an appropriate answer to give to someone. It just kind of shatters their hope. I did some stuff that it helped temporarily, but ultimately I was always back to square one. It's like I was taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. The minute I would start training hard, my back pain would creep up again. I never really fixed the root issue, which led to that ultimatum buildup of that bench press injury that left things a little bit more chronic. And during that whole rehab process, I just found that everything was completely disconnected from my goals of getting back to lifting and training hard. It's like I was doing stuff that had nothing to do with lifting, which plays a toll on you obviously physically because you get weaker, but also mentally because you're not in the environment that you love. And when I was going through the chronic pain phase, at one point it just hit me like, why can't I not train just using different variations that were appropriate for my current capacity and what I was able to do, and just keep building from there. There has to be a way to do this. There has to be a way to implement this. And it was very hard to find the right people that could support me with this. I ultimately did, but there were very, very few people that could actually help me with this, which is very unfortunate, especially for someone who loves training. The problem wasn't the gym itself, the exercises or all of that. It was a combination of things, lifestyle stressors, but also there were some mechanical stuff going on in terms of form, technique, like load management as well too was just terrible. So all these things need to be taken into consideration. And when you're in a clinic and you see a practitioner once a week and they say, see you next week, like there's so much that goes on in a period of 1 week. And if that is not taken into consideration, you're just guessing by the time you go to the next appointment. They're literally just treating you in the state that you are in that moment. There has to be some kind of day-to-day, verification process. How are you feeling? How are you responding? Because if not, like I said, you're just guessing. I've seen people who have been seeing the same therapist for like 8 years. Like that is not normal. It's not normal to be like treated like it's like a mechanic. No, not a mechanic, but like you're like a car. So you're going to the mechanic and the body's not like that. Like you don't need these kind of tune-ups all the time. It's not normal. And these small adjustments like load management, technique, etc., can make massive changes. In some cases, it's literally like the smallest change that can make such a massive difference. Like sometimes it's so simple that you're almost mad that like, you're happy that you feel better, but you're like mad that like, wow, I can't believe it was that simple and I've been wasting my time for some people like myself for years. So your body's never really telling you not to perform this movement. It's just telling you not to do it this way. And there's always a variation to do. There's always another alternative. There's always an exercise variation. I have yet to see in my own practice where someone's come to me and we haven't found some kind of variation that would still keep them in the gym training at a pretty high level intensity, which could just meet them where they're at. Because if you don't find that variation, or if you don't find something that works for you to keep you in the gym, you tend to fall in this trap that for some people could last a very long time. So, the old rehab approach, you go to a clinic, you tell them you're in the gym, you say you're training hard. The first thing they're gonna tell you is like, well, stop training. That's happens literally like 90% of the time. It may have happened to you too. But there's another way of looking at this. If you don't keep training, like I said earlier, what's gonna happen, you're gonna decondition, you're gonna get weaker, and in some cases, that's actually gonna lead to more pain, which is not what you want. It's kind of like you're driving, there's a bump in the road, a pothole, whatever. We're taking another road or find another direction to get to the destination. We're not just stopping the car completely and saying, can't cross over this, the road's broken, there's a little bump there, there's a pothole. No, there's always another way to get to the destination. And I'll share one example of this. And this was a very, very fast fix. I had one client, Candace, she walked into the gym, she had some shoulder pain. She's been training with me for a while. But for that day, for whatever reason, her shoulder was bugging her. And I told her to do some lateral raises. And she just looked like, that's not gonna happen. My shoulder's irritable. So we did the lateral raise and it was irritable, it was painful. But I noticed that her shoulder that day, like I said, due to whatever reason, was just carrying a lot of tension. So I was like, all right, let's perform an exercise variation to open this up. And you could see this variation right over here. I'll actually put it in the description below. But I gave that to her and literally 2 seconds later, she did her lateral raise and she's like, oh, I have no pain. And the reason why that occurred is because I was able to notice like, all right, her shoulder has a lot of tension. We need to open up that space to get that shoulder to move freely. So I gave her that exercise variation with a weight. We stay in the gym. We kept training hard. I gave her that exercise to do every day at home. 7 days later, she had absolutely no pain. It hasn't even come back. So sometimes it could be that simple. Not always, because pain is very complex, but in some cases it can be that simple. And like I said, sometimes it's even frustrating for how simple that is. Another issue that I see in typical rehab, generic rehab, let's be honest, boring rehab, let's call it boring rehab, is that there's a lot of restriction. So it's like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And you go home and you feel like you can't do anything, right? That's gonna affect how you feel about yourself, how you think about your situation. You're gonna feel so limited. Your world just kind of gets smaller and you have less options. It's gonna increase your pain sensitivity. You're gonna feel worse and you're gonna feel even more restricted, and it's probably not gonna help you out in the long term. And what it does too is it creates a fear-based relationship with your body. You start fearing your own body. You're like, well, this person in this, who knows more than me told me I can't do this. So then anytime you're exposed to a situation where you have to perform something that's targeting that area that's a little irritable, your brain just goes into panic mode and you freak out and you're scared of your own body. And that's gonna increase your pain sensitivity. But what we can do is focus on the activities that you can do. Get those small wins and build from there, because the more confidence you can build in your own body when you're in pain, the faster your rehab is gonna be. The more wins you could kind of stack on top of each other, the more your brain is gonna decrease that sense of threat, which heightens your pain sensitivity. So the more we can decrease that threat, the better you're gonna feel about yourself, the better you're gonna move, and you're gonna have a better relationship with the situation you're in and your body. I had another client, her name is Maryse. She didn't like playing soccer anymore because she had foot pain. I don't blame her. And that kind of fear of playing the game was impacting how she felt about the situation. She was frustrated. Every time she saw soccer on the calendar, I'm sure she's like, oh, like I wish I could be there. This is frustrating. But when she told me about this, I was like, all right, let's see how you're moving. Let's see what the issue is. And I noticed that, she lacked the ability. She didn't really have any activities that were preparing her for landing when she's playing soccer. So what we started doing was implementing pogo hops, which you can see right over here. And what this is gonna do essentially is just gonna work on your body's ability to absorb force and produce force relatively quickly. So when you're running and you're playing soccer, all these kind of multi-directional activities, if you didn't prepare the tissue to handle that, yeah, it's gonna be sensitized, it's gonna get painful. So we started implementing these pogo hops. A couple weeks later, pain-free, no issues. We also did some single leg work in the gym as well too. She's still staying in the gym. She was still training. Now she's playing soccer twice a week and she's still training. So once again, if you could spot the problem, find what's missing in someone's lifestyle, in the rehab process, and if you give their body what they need, they're gonna respond very quickly. But the hard part is finding what you actually need. And that's when you have to find the right person to see that. And she didn't have to see multiple professionals. She didn't have to go through all these complex regimens, all this, stretching and then mobilizations and then this and then that. Sometimes boring rehab can overcomplicate things. But in this version of rehab, it's more fun. You're in the gym, you're still training. We had literally implemented one or two exercises, some strength work, pogo hops, etc. She was good to go. So in those two situations, those two clients that I just mentioned, they're in no way did I tell them to stop training, stop doing their activities. We still kept them doing their same activities. They were happy doing these activities, and they got back relatively quickly to doing these activities. When we identified what the issue was, we implemented what I felt they needed, and still were able to train hard, stay in the gym, and now they're back doing their activities that they love. Instead of, going from professional to professional, everyone telling them different things, doing boring rehab on the floor, and ultimately unhappy with their situation. And I have so many other examples of this. I don't want to spend 20, 30 minutes talking about different examples. Hopefully those two examples can show you that you can still train hard, you can still stay in the gym, you can still do your activities, and literally use training as the healing tool to get you back to what you actually love to do, which is training. And when you really zoom out, yes, it's about getting rid of the physical pain, but it's not just that. It's about getting your identity back, your confidence. It's about getting your confidence. And for some people, like myself, even your identity back. I identify as someone who loves training hard, who loves being in the gym. So when that's taken from me, it doesn't leave you in a good state. And when you could start implementing this, you could start saying things to yourself like, all right, I'm in pain today. Well, what can I do to keep staying active? Well, maybe it's cardio, like I'm doing right now. I'm getting a cardiovascular stimulus, although it's pretty low. I'm still getting something, as opposed to just being at home and doing some stretches, which isn't the end of the world, but if you just do stretches forever, not really gonna help you. All right, I have pain with squat. What variation am I gonna do today that's gonna be bringing my pain lower, or maybe no pain, so I could still keep training and still drive a certain adaptation and stimulus to maintain my strength and my fitness. You can still improve your fitness even during a rehab process. That's all I got for today, guys. If you are interested in learning about my process, how I help other people who love training, other lifters who love training, use training as a healing tool, and get back to the gym as soon as possible, I made a free training, which you could see in the link below. So you can go ahead and click that if you'd like to learn more. And if you feel like it's something that could help you, DM me the word rebuild on Instagram, and we could chat. I'll see you next time.